All right, Craig Mack here, Liberty Bell Beekeeper. So this is a swarm trap that I got set up here. I was thinking about this, Yao. I think this is a 2022 queen.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that this was the primary swarm from a tree colony that came out of Cherry Hill, New Jersey, as a matter of fact.
What a coincidence.
Or somewhere, I don't know if it was Cherry Hill, but I think I just saw it run up. Anyway, we're going to open this thing up and transfer these bees into Yao's layings hive. So we're going to cut some of this comb out of these layings frames and lay them into, or lay our swarm trap frames into it. So I'm going to make some cuts on this and cut the staples so this kind of comes apart. Although I might pop the lid and see what we can do, if it'll just come apart, we'll see. Sometimes the older traps are really propolized and difficult to get apart. So this lid has never been opened. You can see quite a bit of propolis on there, all along the top of the lid, all along the edges. This is just plywood, but man, that's just a nice thick layer of propolis, which is what you would expect with a hive that's never been opened. This was originally two separate nuke boxes that I just fastened together with plywood. So I decided to cut the staples to remove one side in order to remove all of this comb and get it to a state where we could transfer that comb into the other existing layings frames. That's what I'm looking for. It's pretty incredible what happens with these bees in an undisturbed location. These bees were in this box for almost a full year. And these bees, even though it was hanging on a tree, they're not really aggressive. And it was sitting crooked for about 2 months before I picked it up, maybe even a little bit longer, because it was quite heavy. This still had a decent bit of honey in it, although reserves were getting low. Fortunately, our spring flow is turning on, and I imagine we'll be ready for swarming in a couple of weeks. Dichotomy of the swarm trap. So, like you said, here you can see that they built this kind of wonky, but when the box is not hanging straight, there's no guarantee that they'll build straight. That wasn't necessarily what I was expecting. Sometimes I've come across these long-term traps that the bees build straight off the bottom of the frames, although it's rare. Like this instance, they built quite a bit of wonky comb, even in the frames. There was only maybe 2 or 3 good solid straight pieces that I was able to relocate into the new layings frames, but that was enough because it was most of the brood. It looks like from the front towards the back. No drones on the combs as of yet, although they did have some drone comb and capped drone brood, but very little. Spaces. They'll build kind of triangular into the corner, and the honey frames, or the honeycomb, is much thicker. Some people will double space their honey frames to get wider, so they'll put 7 frames in an 8-frame box, or they'll put 9 in a 10-frame box and let the bees build it out deeper. For a heavier honey crop. So this looks to be all honey in these first 2 rows that I'm cutting out. Essentially what I do every day.
honey in there. We're going to set this down in here. So we keep those bees in this box. So we got a few rows here, kind of overlapped. The bees get right to work. As soon as there's honey spilled, the bees get right into it, cleaning it up. Spilling honey can mean potential disaster for a colony, because it's going to bring all the other bees and yellow jackets, wasps to that box like a dinner bell. This colony here looks like it's running a little bit light on honey. Now here's an interesting piece. This one bends around. It's kind of like a Z, the way this is configured. So I'm going to cut upwards and separate this into two and see if we can't get this one piece to be our piece. Maybe a piece we can put into a frame. Some of these are a bit too wonky for my liking.
The comb at the bottom was quite curved. Although there was some straight pieces we were able to readjust and put into the layings frames. All in all, this process was about an hour from start to finish to be able to relocate these bees. And fortunately, the queen was at the very end, all the way on the last piece of comb.
And you can see there's no way I was doing this without my gear on. They're not happy now. There's our queen. And good thing she's all the way in the end. Last frame, out of the way.
So I'm going to grab your camera.
Yeah, sure, please. There she is. Big old booty. Nice color. Pick her up in a clip. And we're going to put her in down here. Sweet. By buying a nuke that's active, you have everything going for it right off the get-go.
At this point, I'm starting to put my brood comb into the layings frames.
Camera closer again?
I lay the brood comb
yeah,
on
take
top
some
of the
video of
layings
this.
frames and cut it to fit.
Some people have seen
And
my
then do
videos
the same
before, have
thing
seen
with
me
the
do
comb
this.
that's
I'm just
already
gonna
existing
take
in the
this, lay it
frame.
right on top of the frame and cut
Doing
it
it
to the
this way
exact
allows me to
size
make
that I
a
want.
precise cut, and I can do
I need
limited
to make
banding
this brood comb fit into this layings frame
with rubber bands,
So I basically just
and
make
it fits
an
nice and
outline
tight. These
of
frames
what I
have a
need to
wire in
remove.
them,
Oops.
so I was able to make some slices in the
Make the
combs
outline of what
and
I
get
need
it to
to
sit
remove in the
nicely
layings frame.
into the frames,
Do a little bit
so
of
it won't move
surgery.
around too much, and saved probably
This
about
layings has
90%
wire
of
in
the
it.
brood comb.
So it's going to make it a little bit more difficult to remove. But I don't really mind that, because once I get into it, it should be able to come out. Should have brought my torch. my contractor experience coming out. Straight cuts. So then I can take my brood comb and just kind of press it into those wires. Now I'm going to lose some of this brood, but that's just the way it goes in a transfer like this. Not a whole lot I can do about that. But being able to maintain the bees and get them right back into work is what I'm really concerned about. The rubber bands, the bees will eventually chew them out and get rid of them. And now we have that nice brood right back in, and this should help our bees get more comfortable.
At this point, I have all the comb in place and the follower board back in place, and I'm marking the queen so my friend can see her easily. I marked her in red, although I believe this is a 2022 queen, which would have been yellow. But a wrong colored mark is at least a mark, and we'll at least know that she's going into her third season. So this was a fun process and a good reason to check your traps often and relocate your bees as soon as you can, so you don't have to deal with the process of relocating from a swarm trap that's built out like this. It was completely preventable and was due to nothing more than my sheer laziness. But it does happen from time to time, and it is what it is. Get the job done and get her done. So that is the anatomy of a swarm trap that has been left on its own devices for a year. Hopefully, these bees will continue to do what they're doing and continue to be healthy and happy in their new location. Thanks for watching.